So we finally ended the second season of Blue Exorcist, and I'm going to do this review a little different than the other ones. I'm not really going to talk about this episode, mainly because there's not much to talk about. It did exactly what anyone would expect. It kind of ended the series. It had, like, the marriage, comedic gags. All the characters more or less trust Rin. We got some Yukio and Rin stuff. It's exactly what you would expect. There's nothing to really talk about. If this wasn't the final episode, I wouldn't review it. So instead, I'm going to talk about my overall thoughts with this season, because I'm not going to do a season review like I did with season 1. I've talked about season 2 enough, and I don't like it enough to do a full review for it, but this was a solid season, I would say. I think it wasn't as enjoyable as season 1 for me. This arc had a lot of issues. I think the intro content to this arc was very just dry, there wasn't much happening, and it took far too long to get up into the actual interesting content. Though when we did get into the interesting content, it started to feel like the Blue Exorcist I know and love again, which I do appreciate. There was some good character development for Rin, there was some actual really great character development for Rin, him overcoming his flame issues. I think some of the side characters like Bond did really good, but I feel like Blue Exorcist, this arc, really showed an issue that I think the future of the series could have if we ever do get a season 3 or 4, and please no spoilers for people who know the future arcs. I think Blue Exorcist showed that it needs to learn to take risks, because as much as I'm happy Bond got closure with his father and his father lived, when you see his father get stabbed through the throat, when I saw that I was like, wow, they're taking a risk. And it's not to say these series always have to just kill someone every arc to be like, oh, no one's safe, but they did that to show it was like, yes, no one's safe. They are fighting life and death. Holy hell, someone could just die at any given moment. And the fact that he did live, and it does make sense how he lived with his familiar and how the familiar regenerated his body enough to keep him alive. I just feel like right now, everyone is safe. So when a character is close to death, I'm always now going to think, well, they're gonna live. It's not to say like Rin needs to get his arm cut off or Yukio needs to get his head cut off, but the fact that they showed that they were willing to go that far to then pull it away, it makes me question how much of a risk Blue Exorcist is truly willing to take, and I think it needs to learn to take more for future arcs. If we'll even get a third season, I doubt the season's going to sell that much. Based on the reception, I don't think it's been that popular. I mean, who knows, it could sell really well and it might get a third season, you know, another 5 years down the road. But I think for future arcs, it really does need to take more risks, and maybe in the future arcs it does take more risks. But I think that moment when you see that he is still alive, it's a little depressing because it did show, it was executed beautifully. It was such a beautiful scene with how he was stabbed through the throat, and it's like, wow, Blue Exorcist really went that route? That's insane. To then pull it away, it's a little depressing. But I think the actual content of the season with the boss, how long they took to basically finish off the Impure King was, I thought, paced really well because this was such a menacing force, how they developed the characters. I thought overall, this was a solid season of Blue Exorcist, despite the flaws I might have with it, with the intro content and maybe even the risks that it wasn't willing to take. It was still a fun season, and I think it's still worth watching, even if you watch the first season and you feel concluded. I think, yes, you're gonna have to deal with some repetitive content that I think the anime original content handled better than the manga content. Come at me, haters. But I think the actual interesting content does outweigh the negative content that I have of this season. It was a fun season, it had its low moments, but I think it also did have its high moments, and I'm glad with the time I spent. It did come close to a point of me wanting to drop it around the episode 3 mark, but I'm glad I stuck with it because I had a lot of fun with Blue Exorcist. But I'd be interested here. What did everyone think of this season? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was a little mediocre? I'd really be interested here. What's everyone's final thoughts on this season of Blue Exorcist? So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And before you leave, hit that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.